Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. I am JT.
Hello, my friends. I'm Joey.
And today we will be discussing recovery from injury, bridging the gap from not quite injured, but then not quite healthy. You're stuck in no man's land.
The grey zone.
Yeah, it's tough because, you've done a bit of rehab. Physio's kind of happy with you and says, yeah, you're all right. On you go, jog on. But then you know that...
Well, maybe you don't know.
Maybe you don't know.
You probably don't know.
Well...
Physio said I'm good to go back.
Well, better get back on the mats then.
Yeah, let's comp rounds.
Yeah. But you might be struggling to bend that elbow, or you might actually be struggling to even do a push-up or do a squat. And what we're going to dig into today, guys, is really figuring out how do you navigate this kind of no man's land, which a lot of people don't know anything about, and you primarily may not know. And then how do you work your way out? Like, what is the checklist as to how you know when you're good to go? Because it's something that not many people could tell you. And most physios, don't get me wrong, we're always advising, go see a physio, go see a physio. But there is a limit to where their work stops and you have to do a bit of work yourself to be able to get yourself back to, almost 100% fit and healthy, good to throw down.
Yeah, so I guess we should kind of define what 100% is, because for different people in the medical realm, their 100% is different to what your 100% is.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you go, and we preach this all the time, but if you go to a doctor, like here in Australia, we call it a GP, a general practitioner. I don't know what it's called in the States or, overseas, but you go to your regular doctor and you go to them with a joint issue or, a muscle tear, something that happened at jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
They're really concerned with, I don't know what jiu-jitsu is or, what your lifestyle's like, but let's get you out of pain. Okay, yep, lay off training for a couple of weeks and take some anti-inflammatories and you should be good to go.
Rest up.
So really what they're kind of, and we're being very general about this, but they're saying 100% is it's not in pain anymore and then resume life as it was before.
Yeah.
Right? And
Definitely.
you're like, okay, I'll take that advice. And you want to get back to jits, right? So you're like, man, doc said it was 2 weeks and I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, you fucking know that's bullshit, right? But then you take it a step further. A physiotherapist, say you got a physio that doesn't understand jiu-jitsu, they're going to take a more precise look at what the issue is, and they're going to give you better information. But if they don't understand the sport of jiu-jitsu, they're still not going to understand what 100% is for you to go, because jiu-jitsu is one of the most physically hectic, taxing sports you can do.
Guaranteed.
So the gold standard is you've got a physio that understands jiu-jitsu and they train it themselves. And they can go, all right, James, I see the issue. I know how you train. They have a more accurate view of what 100% is for you. But still, this is what we're talking about today, there's that gap like between their understanding and expectations versus when you're actually truly prepared to go back to full-scale BJJ training.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that for most people who go and see a physio, they're just looking to get back to day-to-day life. And if near enough is good enough. If you can walk around, you're not in pain. If you can swing a hammer or, type or do whatever you need to do, then the physio's done their job.
Yeah, I can go to the gym and do like a couple of bodybuilding workouts and, run on the treadmill a couple of times, like standard fitness activities. Not particularly taxing on the joints and shit. It's like, yeah, go for it. You'll be good.
Yeah, but if you've got, big Wes on your chest Kimuring you and you're stuck and he's kneeling on your arm and you can't tap.
And you want to get graded and you're like, I'm not tapping today.
I'm not tapping. Coach is watching.
Yeah.
That's another injury coming your way. And if you've got a shoulder injury, and I've had these in the past, like it's a terrible thing. It's a lingering thing. So what we want to do is go, right, you are in the gray zone. You're in the recovery zone. You are not ready to come back. How can we identify this? Because you might be saying, forget you, fool. I'm ready. Doc says I'm good. I say I'm good. Let's go. Let's put a little bit of, what shall we say? Like, let's put a bit of context around it. Because obviously, Joe, you've had some experience with this yourself. Now, obviously, you're a very well-versed, knowledgeable person of all the health and fitness things.
Thank you, James.
Well, let's do what we can. We've got to give you some credit. But then we have our friend Adam Childs, possibly not quite as well-versed. Possibly.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, he knows some stuff. I've tried my best. But we're just going to put it in the context of a very acute injury, surgery level injury. So yourself, Joe, had surgery and had to go through that recovery roller coaster.
All right. So first thing to paint the picture for folks, if we take away the particular physical activity we like to engage in, which for all of us is jiu-jitsu.
Of course.
But if we take that layer away from it and just look at it from a human movement perspective, going to the gym and doing basic strength and mobility training is very simple in terms of human movement. Squatting, you go up and down. Deadlifting, you pick things up. Pushing and pulling. Like, it's basic human movement patterns, right? And the beauty of that is that it's formalized, it's controlled. There's parameters, i.e. do 4 sets of 10 reps. Yeah. This is what a good repetition looks like. Like, it's very controlled.
And it's under your control.
That's right. And it's like you can, and the variables are how many reps are you doing, how much load is it with, and how often are you doing it? Like, it's pretty simple stuff. So if you're coming from that period where you're like getting back into training, going back to the gym to do the strength and mobility work is the logical first step.
Yes.
It's controlled and it's formalized. Forget that. Look at jiu-jitsu. Now think about you doing 5 rounds of 7 minutes in class. Chaos. Getting stacked, inverted, someone jumping on your back. Think about, try to quantify the different movements that are occurring in that session. And you can't because it is just too chaotic.
Too much.
And so from a human movement perspective, you have the gym, which is like, I don't know, maybe it's like it's like when you go to that friend's house and everything's like neat and tidy and you're like, wow, this place looks beautiful. Like,
I wish my place
everything
was like
has
this.
A place and like take your shoes off at the door, please, James.
Yeah, very nice.
Would you like a drink? And they give you the drink. It's on a coaster.
Oh, wow.
Like the water is iced.
Very civilized.
Versus jiu-jitsu house where you go and everything's a fucking mess. The sink is full of dishes. You don't know where I don't even know what's the front door.
There's a possum.
Yeah, there's like, who's that sleeping on the couch? I don't know, fucking some friend of my sister's. It's just
it's just chaos.
You're like, this place sucks. But it's completely chaotic, and so that is not a logical first step for you to go to after you've gotten out of this acute phase of injury, is it? No. So in any case, for me, to answer your question, I had the knee injury. So whatever, I had an ACL reconstruction, and after that surgery, there was. I'm still in this post-surgery phase 2 years later.
Sure.
Where the range of motion is not back to what it was, and it is nowhere near what my good side is.
Right. Or
my unaffected side.
Should say.
Be careful with our language here, folks.
Yes, sir.
Don't want to adopt a negative narrative.
No.
But so I'm constantly made aware of the deficiencies of my affected knee through the training I do in the gym. Because I can't squat as deep. I can't go into like a full knee drop on that side.
But I would say, just put it out there, your range on that side is possibly better than some people who've not had surgery, right?
Totally. And that's unique to me. And,
it is. Yeah.
But, I know I'm like, man, I am underperforming on that side grossly. And that, and that's, I think for folks, it doesn't matter where you're at. The question is, are you balanced? And can you express the joint or movements in the way that you're capable of? And for me, I'm like, no, I definitely can't.
Right.
So whatever, I'm that far past surgery that it's now okay for me to be back at full scale training.
It is.
But there was a long period of time there where I wasn't.
But I was going to say, the reason why I wanted you to talk about this, Joe, is it's ups and downs, right? Like, you had points where you were going forward and then for various reasons, inflammation, and oh God, it's not linear. Like, I'm not just up and to the right, always improving.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, that's a deeper thing where it's like, you've got to be aware of what you're going through and you've got to try and tailor your jiu-jitsu training to match that. I didn't go back to, I didn't go from surgery, rehab to back at jiu-jitsu training full scale. I went back to drilling, and then I went back to doing a little bit more kind of vigorous drilling with responsible partners.
Specific stuff.
And then it was like, all right, go back to some easy rolls with the right training. But Adam was one of the, we were actually, I got to give him credit. He was highly responsible during that time. Nice. It's like, man, we'll do some stuff. I'll be mindful of the knee. But so, that period, no one can say how long that takes.
No.
But it eventually got to a point where I'm like, okay, I feel confident to go back into the fire.
Yes.
I think, and if we contrast that to his story,
well,
this is what I wanted
to say, yeah. Because just to put some context around this, Adam, our good friend, Adam Childs, has just recently had elbow surgery. which was necessary. He had some bone fragments in there, had a bone spur, had a bunch of stuff which was surgery level requirement. And his elbow was so fat. And he was showing it. We had it on grading day, stitches, like the bruising on the inside of his arm was horrible.
Like a beetroot, his whole arm.
Yeah, it's tough. And he was saying, man, my arm's so wrecked. I didn't expect it to be so terrible. But then, what, like 2 weeks later, it's like, dude, I'm going to get in. I think I'm going to, next class, come in, I'll roll. I'm like, dude, no. Do you forget what you were saying 2 weeks ago, man? Like, this is crazy. But the ups and downs,
Monday night, we rolled.
Oh, right.
Monday night, he's like, Joey, let's roll. I was like, you sure?
Oh.
He said to me, no, man, surgeon said, like, I'd be good to get back into training at around 4 weeks. And I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, we had a roll. It wasn't, we didn't go 100%. It was respectful and whatever. And then at the end of the class, funny little piece, he said, you'll be in on Thursday, right? We'll roll again. And I'm like, yeah, totally. And he said, Thursday will be 4 weeks, so that's sweet. I'm like, whoa. You said today? He said, no, Thursday's 4 weeks. I'm like you're just like stretching, stretching it to be like, near enough's good enough.
Oh, God.
But that's the thing, like, has he, respectfully, he's my coach, he's our good friend.
Sure.
We love the guy.
Yeah.
And he's been doing his rehab.
He has.
He's been extremely diligent with that. But there's a place, like, you're doing your rehab. Okay, have you been back to the gym and started to load that elbow through some more intense movement patterns? Like, built back your pull-ups, built back like heavy push-ups, dips, like gotten that elbow under some strain. Because when we roll, you're going to be doing pull-ups.
Far
you're
more
gonna be
dynamic.
doing dips.
Yeah.
Like, all that shit's happening and it's way more dynamic.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't just jump from A to F.
No, not at all. And I think this is the thing that most of us want to skip those steps. So the way I usually try to, like, if I'm trying to explain it to somebody who has no idea what we're talking about, and this might be you might be listening to us going, what are you guys talking about? If you think you've just had surgery or you've just snapped a ligament, you're now at -10. Let's count 0 as healthy, uninjured person. Maybe someone who's never trained jiu-jitsu. And you've got to go through this process of being at -10 to being at, say, -5, which is, that gray, you're starting to hit that gray area. You're not acutely injured, but you're also not back to 100%. Then you got to work through that period to get to healthy, which is, full range of motion and I can use my body. I'm not in pain all the time. But then, like, +5 is stability. On top of that, +10 is strength. And then on top of that is, dynamic plyo, judo throw, shoot in, takedown. Like, that's level 15 +20. Everybody wants to go from -10 to +20.
Yes.
Everyone wants to skip those steps.
Absolutely.
Because it's humbling. It's terrible. You don't want to go, I can't fully straighten my elbow. I want to ignore that because that I feel disabled. Like, you don't want to confront the fact that your arm is a problem.
Yeah, it's like functioning at only a portion of its capacity.
Yeah, you're literally like someone who has a physical disability.
And this is why people love jiu-jitsu, because you can hide.
You can work
from
around
that
it.
shit. Yeah, you're like, I'll just play guard on my other side.
Yeah, it's okay.
Whatever.
But I think here's the most important thing, guys. We are now going to get into the discussion and go, all right, I'm not 100%. I'll cop to that. What have I got to do? How do I get back? How do we at Bulletproof identify these things? So what I thought we'd do is we start first, cab off the rank. We have 3 key things here. Range of motion.
Range of motion. So you got a joint issue. Let's say it's your elbow. The very first thing that you need before anything else, is full expression of that joint's range of motion. So full elbow extension, i.e. you can straighten your arm, lock it out. All right, full flexion right here. JT gives bicep flex, and then full extension. That is the very first thing you need. And if you think about it this way, range of motion is like the very most basic thing the joint does. If you try to, like, go and do heavy strength work that requires elbow extension and flexion before you've even tested the range, this is dangerous territory.
Yes.
And this is what jiu-jitsu is. So first and foremost, can you express full natural range of motion through that joint?
Yeah.
And you might be a bit of a tight individual, but I guess maybe a better way to look at it is, can you express the range to the same as what you had pre-injury?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. We do take it for granted. we just think, oh yeah, I can just put my shirt on, I just pull my pants on, I put my shoes on, and then that's where it kind of, these basic life things, you go to do them, you're like, man, I can't bend all the way over. Oh, my back's so tight. Oh, I can't reach my arm up. My shoulder's freaking pinging,
Yeah.
There's these things where it really rings home that you're like, man, I can't live my life normally. Oh, but I can roll. No. We've got to rewind, guys. So that range of motion piece, and this is something that I've heard from, much smarter person than me within the realm of strength conditioning, which is before.
Is that me?
Unfortunately, it was not you, Joe. But, I mean, you're an articulate guy at the best of times. But we must add range before we add load. If we've got somebody...
I fucking said that shit
you
first, bro.
Get the fuck out of here. What are you thinking? I've been in this game way too long,
Charles,
Junior.
Mark, you stole my shit.
So that's the thing, guys. If you can't touch your toes, which is it's a position you'll be forced into when you are rolling, we got to do some work. And there's work that you can do before you start picking up a really heavy barbell, which is going to be really beneficial. Don't get me wrong. We're not going to go into the discussion of, loaded mobility here. We will touch on it, but it's more that if you can't touch your own shoulder, should you just be loading that up?
Yeah.
If you can't,
should you be doing bicep curls?
probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not, even though you love them. So range of motion is the first.
Just a caveat to that.
Please.
Yes, there are benefits to doing some loaded exercise in the rehab process. And for that specific example, your physio might give you some banded bicep curls.
Sure.
To repair, and totally, right? But we're trying to simplify this thing into a model that you can apply. So take it with a grain of salt that, yes, there are times when a professional can permit you to veer off track.
Yeah, definitely. And look, the load could be something as simple as hold this drink bottle or anything like that. But if we put it in the context of a squat, say, if you go to squat down and the only way that you can squat below 90 is to lift your heels up off the ground because you've got an ankle injury and your ankles are really tight, you should be addressing your ankle range of motion, not just always chocking your heels because your Achilles is tight.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do that. But what we're looking at, guys, we want you to be in the best physical function you can have. So you've got to take care of these deficiencies.
Well, before we move on to the next point, I suppose the glaring thing is you can avoid these things and hide behind it and keep training and roll through it and develop a new style to your game, whatever, but it will come back and bite you on the ass.
Yeah.
And it will get you. And then you'll be like, fuck, I wish I had just addressed this shit properly. Like it will fucking get you.
Even Marcelo Garcia. So this is like, I get this all the time. People go, oh, Marcelo Garcia never did strength conditioning. In interview, did say, I wish I addressed my injuries and did some lifting when I was younger. Said that, like, blanket statement.
Controversial.
My body's not what it should be now because I neglected it when I was younger. And it's, people say he's the GOAT. People always point to him like, oh, he's a pure jiu-jitsu guy. He got where he got, but he got there in spite of not lifting. Not because he did not lift.
Yeah.
So I think the next thing too is like once you have got your range of motion back, you're like, oh, I can't touch my toes. I can't touch my shoulder. We need stability. We need to be able to take a little bit of, load, but then it's balance. Can you stand on one foot and not just fall over? Like how stable is your ankle? In the same way, like can you put weight in your arm and have your elbow fully locked out without your wrist just aching incessantly?
Like top of a push-up position, maybe one hand off the ground.
Yeah.
Balancing, holding. I mean, and for folks thinking, it's like, okay, now the range of motion is being expressed.
Yeah.
Extension here. But also you've got the balance piece.
Yeah.
But then you got some like endurance because you're trying to hold it for whatever, 30, 40, 60 seconds.
Sure.
There's these different capacities that are starting to move towards what you might need for jiu-jitsu, right?
That's right. And the thing about stability, guys, is it usually involves co-contractions. So it's like more than one group of muscles working. It's agonist, antagonist. It's your bicep and your tricep stabilizing to keep your arm straight. It's not just, I'm just doing a push-up and straightening my arm and using my tricep. It's your ability to keep the joint safe. If you don't have that control around the joint, and then someone like me grabs your wrist and says, right, I'm going to twist your arm off, if you can't even under your own control your elbow, I'm going to snap that bitch off.
That's right. And it's not James's fault. It's your fault.
That's right. You didn't take care of business. Defend yourself at all times. Be prepared, my friends. So that bit of stability, if you're unsure, if you're like, oh, my ankle is a bit dodgy, if you can't stand on that foot for a minute without having to put the other foot down, that's not a stable ankle. You know, we're not saying hop. We're not saying jump through the air. We're like, literally, just stand on your foot. Can you balance? In a barefoot, not in a shoe, not in a shoe with arch support, saying literally, because when you go on that jiu-jitsu mat, you know, this is the thing. I see people training in shoes all the time. Like, so here at Jungle Brothers, part of the ethos is we're a barefoot gym. And I live by that. Like, I have always tried to deadlift barefoot, even when I train kettlebells, train barefoot. Because if you're on the mats and you do jiu-jitsu, you don't have shoes on. You also, you're not wearing a weight belt. You can't be like, hang on a second, I'm just going to
Oh, you stack me.
tighten up the weight belt to brace my back. You know, you don't have wrist wraps. You haven't got any of that help. You need to have the structural integrity to do these things. So stability is the first thing before you can start to do the next thing, which is an interesting term, RUL.
RUL, range under load.
Oh, Joe Worthington, a superlative.
Guys, you heard it here first.
Patent pending. Pretty sure I said it first, but range under load is something different, guys. This is something that probably no one talks about, and that's why we're going to get into it right now.
So the first point was express full range of motion. Second point, stability. Third point, range under load. So can you move that joint through its full range of motion, but under some load? So, you know, if we're talking about a busted ankle, it's can you perform a squat all the way down, all the way up with, you know, whatever, a kettlebell, you know, in a rack position or a goblet squat. If we're talking about the elbow, maybe it's a banded bicep curl.
Sure.
You know, maybe it's a ring row, whatever. But it's something where it's taking the joint through range and it is under a bit of load as well, because like we were saying, the formalized environment of the gym allows us to work on within certain parameters. Load is one of these really key parameters. So it's like, yeah, man, my elbow feels pretty good when I do this, but hey, when you add a 10 kilo dumbbell here, oh fuck, that hurts. And that's the thing is, there is no point in jiu-jitsu where you are not free of load. You are always under load. So this has to be explored in your training before you go back to full scale rolling. Definitely.
And also know that if you're just picking a weight up and putting it down, that's actually pretty basic in terms of being quite linear. The tension is consistent and it's not too crazy. Now, you may have seen people out there, loading bands and kettlebells, and like they talk about like chaos training, or like a hurricane. Oh, it's not hurricane. There's another name for it.
Is that like when I do the toes to bar and then when I bring the legs down, you like punch me in the stomach with the boxing gloves?
Yeah, exactly.
And I got the mask on and the dreadlocks.
No.
Chaos training.
No, it's more that obviously when you pick up a barbell, it's static. But if you try and pick up a human and they're trying to armbar you, literally the person is forcibly trying to make your joint do the opposite. If at any point they like kick you in the guts or between the, like in the groin, you lose tension in your back rounds, maybe you're going to herniate a disc. Maybe you're going to accidentally, because you're sweaty, your hand's going to slip and your arm's going to be forced into a terrible, terrible armbar. It's going to tear more ligaments. Like, it is so dynamic, guys. So, you know that the saying you got to walk before you run. Obviously, you would think someone needs to be able to stand on one leg before they can hop. In the same way, they need to be able to hop on the spot 10 times before they're like, I'm going to hop up on that 1 meter box. All these things, like, it's all just layers of progression. Now, we're going to add another human into the mix who's trying to bend your joints the wrong way. This is just a total next level layer. And look, friend of mine, Chris, he recently got a radial fracture in his hand just drilling. So partner was doing a sweep. He went to post, kind of missed and rolled, but took all of his weight with his kind of hand. Radial fracture. The guy's a butcher. He can't use his hand properly. It's really bad, right?
Stitch up.
And that's one of those things that's just like, it can happen in jiu-jitsu. So in terms of coming back, we've got our range of motion, we've got our stability, we've got our range under load. The next step, would you say, Joe, is drilling? like a controlled jiu-jitsu, which is not rolling?
Yeah, I think, it's at that point that you're like, okay, I've kind of maxed out the formal parameters in the gym. Now I've got to get back on the mats. And, you can be on the mats prior to this, whatever, engaging with the class, maybe drilling a bit of stuff on the non-injured side or, whatever. But yeah, I think it's time to go back to jiu-jitsu, but we got to kind of break that into a few phases. I think, drilling is the first place you go to. Try and do the warm-up, try and do some drilling, and then probably like don't roll.
Yeah.
And that's like work that for a period.
Definitely. And I think that the thing around this is, a while ago there was this movement behind, don't drill, it doesn't help you learn. But that said, some of the greatest people of all time, Mendes brothers, Miao brothers, world champions, many times world champions, Cobrinha, so many guys drill. They practice the skill over and over. This isn't a comment on how to learn. It's just a comment on reorienting the body and checking in with yourself. When I do this, do I get pain? Like obviously when the adrenaline's hitting, you're feeling good, but you go to do that drill and then the adrenaline wears off and you're like, oh my God, my knee is blown up. Like it's fat now.
Yeah.
Shit, I went too far. And you didn't even know it at the time. But
that's valuable, right?
Yeah.
Do the session, notice that.
And then
act accordingly.
Yeah, maybe dial it down a little bit.
Exactly.
Change the drill.
Yeah, and that's like, that is the exact opposite of being oblivious and refusing to address. It's like, no, I'm like checking in with myself, seeing how my body responded to the training and how the injury's going, and I'm gonna customize. I'm gonna act on this.
Yeah, and look, I am not a particularly technical person when it comes to like technology, cars, anything like that. My practical skills, my man skills are low. I feel insufficient. My dad.
I'd like to thank you for sharing that with us
today,
James.
I'm just being vulnerable. My therapist told me it's good for me. Instead of being tough all the time, freaking staunch. No, but my dad's an engineer. He can fix a car. He can fix anything, like take things apart. So the thing is, I am the person who had a flat tire while driving on the highway. Just went, God, the car sounds funny. Kept driving. I'm like, is it the engine? I don't know.
This road's terrible.
Should I pull over? I'm like, what?
Pay my taxes.
Can you smell that? Can you smell that? What is that smell? It's like, is that burning? Is that sparks? Pull over. If you identify you have a flat tire, you don't keep on driving. You call roadside assistance or whatever. Or if you're capable,
you change your tire.
Change the fucking tire. But you don't just go, it's like, yeah, it's still on there. I'll just drive. Because that is what you're doing. And that is a hard lesson learned. Look, it's a car. A car's replaceable. When that's your hip, when that's your shoulder, that could be a lifetime of pain if you don't pay attention to the warning signs.
Yeah.
Right? And the next step off drilling, and not everyone has this. So we understand if you're new to jiu-jitsu and you've copped an injury and you want to stay in the game, if you haven't been at your club long or you haven't trained that long, you don't necessarily have like a real tight circle of friends. That takes time. But there is a community within injury. And a lot of us think that we're isolated when we get injured. Like, I'm not on the team anymore because I'm injured. No, you just joined the team. You're part of the real team, team injury, which is like, the majority of us in jiu-jitsu. We experience it one time or another. But having a trustworthy partner who will work with you when you say, hey, man, my ankle's bad. They don't try and footlock you. you know that they are going to roll at 50% or just work around your injury so that you can get some jiu-jitsu skills in without making it worse.
Yes. And that's definitely the next step through, isn't it? It's like, okay, like work some light rolling.
Yeah.
If you got to avoid the positions that are problematic for a little while, that's okay. But then there's a stage where it's like, okay, now I got to go into that. Like, okay, now you can footlock me on that side. Just know that when you catch it, let's just see. Yeah. And I remember Adam would do that a lot. Like once we started training a lot of heel hooks and stuff. And still to this day, if he catches me,
never.
No, but if he catches me in a heel, he'll always be like reflexively, oh man, is that your bad knee? And because he's thinking about it.
You forget.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, it's good. Like you can go to town. Like you don't have to worry about it anymore. But that indicates like that is a really smart place to be for a while.
Yes.
Until you can say, okay, I'm good to go. Like reins are off. let's throw down.
Go nuts.
It's almost like that model that we applied in the gym, where it's like range and then stability and then range under load and then range under more load.
Yes.
You almost apply that same thing to jiu-jitsu. It's like drilling
Just
and
do
warm
the
up,
movement.
and then drilling and warm up and a little bit of rolling with a responsible individual, and then maybe some light rolling with, very specific partners, and then, like it's
RUL, rolling under load.
rolling. Fuck,
Hey,
brother, hey.
amazing.
I like that. You get that one, I get the range.
All right, fair enough.
That's cool. But yeah, what I think the greatest quality that people need to, because it makes sense. People listening, you're hearing this, you're like, I can do that. That makes total sense. Super logical. The problem is, you take Adam as example. He's sitting on the sidelines coaching classes for, 3.5 weeks, not doing anything. And then he's like, I fucking want back in.
Itching.
And he said to me last week, he's like, man, it looked like an awesome session tonight. Some good rolls, eh?
Yeah.
Like you could see he was frothing.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. And so you rush it, and then you're like, I'm going back in, and whatever. He's an adult, he makes his own decision. Everyone can, but you got to fight that impatience, because that impatience is what will bring you undone, and it will force you to skip steps, jump from A to F.
Yeah.
And like we said, this is what's going to run you into trouble down the track.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I don't know. I hope this has never happened to you, but coming back too soon is the worst feeling, because you get your hopes up. You're like, no, I feel pretty good. I really want to experience this great thing called jiu-jitsu. And within 1 or 2 sessions, you've re-injured yourself. You are now as many weeks back as you were forward. So you're going to have to go through that whole process again.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because it was your choice, right? It's nothing you can't blame anyone else other than
You fucked up.
That's right. It's on you. So that is a terrible feeling, because also, in your heart of hearts, fuck, my bad. I did it. I did it to myself. And, provided you can learn from it, maybe that's a good lesson, but you don't need to make mistakes multiple times. Like, you've got an injury, there's definitely a way that you can get through it without stuffing yourself up again. And look, that's not to say you won't get some other injury, but that's the other thing too. And I've seen this where people try and work around an injury, and because they compensate and they do a different injury.
Create another one.
Yeah, like a friend of mine, he'd injured his wrist. Now, he could have just, he could have just gone the, UFC one boxing glove, gi, one boxing glove, headgear, whatever. But he's like, no, I'll just put my hand in my belt, which I don't know why that made sense. He could have held his belt, who knows. In that session, got swept and landed on his neck and herniated 2 discs.
Oh God.
Pretty much the end of his jiu-jitsu career right there. Like, he was trying to do his best to stay in the game. Fuck. That was not the way. So when we circle back around and we look at it, you definitely want to keep connected to jiu-jitsu, but there is a process for you to come back step by step. So if you are not sure if you're ready, doc said you're good, physio's kind of sent you on your way, what is good to do is go through and do a bit of a test, top to bottom. Can I move my body fully without being in pain? Now, can I do that with, can I hold my arm there? Can I put a little bit of pressure in my neck? Can I lean against the wall? Can I do a bridge? Can I do a jiu-jitsu warm-up at home? We all know the moves. Backwards rolls. Yeah. Can I shrimp? Can I walk on my, do a bear crawl? If you can't do these basic things, how are you going to do it with someone on your back? You're not going to be able to. And then just work your way in. Now, your coach may not know, because obviously we've said this before.
Your coach will not know.
Yeah. Coaches generally are like, yeah, just get on the mats. You're good to go. But the thing is, as much as well-meaning as they are, and as much as they want you to get better at jiu-jitsu, they don't know your body the way you know your body. And you have to be very honest with yourself to check in and go, you know what? I'm still not right. I need to take steps to move forward. And if you're not sure what to do, we can potentially help you. But then also, it might even be worthwhile for you to go and seek out a trainer. You might need some supervised help to help you fully rehabilitate. So as much as we try to be as helpful as we can via the internet, Instagram, Facebook, all of that, like, we're always happy to take questions and give you the best advice we can, as much as you can over the internet. It is worthwhile seeing a professional and getting them to give you the objective feedback, which is, that ain't right, son. You got to fix that.
Absolutely. I think that demonstrates too how we see that the link between someone training jiu-jitsu and then also going to the gym and doing some strength and mobility work are like hand in hand. You have to do it. And, you know, whether it's the rehab piece or it's just general physical preparation to be on the mats and be healthy and strong, you got to be doing some stuff off the mats, and that's what we're all about. Makes me think of the new feature that's coming up soon for our members.
Oh,
which
do tell.
Well, we've got standards, which is dropping soon. It'll be out by the time this is, but this is the feature that JT's been working on hard this year, which is our rehab coach.
Yeah.
Right. And this is basically this is going to be out sometime in 2022.
2022.
Sorry, next year. Give us a few months. But it'll give you a map of the body, and you can choose the area of the body where you're having issues. So it's like maybe I got a bit of a dud shoulder, and there'll be specific prehab protocols that you can follow for that area of the body, focusing on range of motion, stability, range under load. And the idea being that, oh man, I'm a bit gammy in that spot. Click on the thing, gives you a little mini program. You follow that for however long you need to, it gets you back on the mats, and it complements our strength and mobility programs that are already on the members site.
Yeah, we've had a few people ask us, oh, look, I can do everything, but my right shoulder's not good. What do I do? Can I put something in place of like bottoms up press?
Yeah.
Yes, you totally can. And the great way that it's structured with the rehab coach section is that you can gauge yourself. So if you can get through the warm up and you can get through the stability, like then you know you're ready for the next step. And once you can complete all sets and reps at the next step, then you can go to the next level. And once you can fully complete that, you are ticked off, certified. You have demonstrated good technique, no pain, onward.
Resume normal training.
Yeah. But you do need that structure. And I feel that that's where this kind of discussion leads us, that everybody needs that tool to be able to guide them as to how they're going. So excited to bring that to you guys. We've got it down, but obviously we're working on a lot of other things, standards. I thought, Joe, you were going to talk about the new live feature of standards, which I'm excited about.
Oh, the progression?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool, guys. I think it's cool. Anyway, maybe because I'm nerdy and I'm like that. But the program, the new standards program is alive. So you can, when you can complete X amount of sets and reps on a particular movement and you're like, I'm pretty good here, I need more challenge, you can hit progress and then you get your new upgrade. And say you've just gone from, white belt level 3 stripe, 4 stripe. Now you're working on blue belt level strength or blue belt level mobility. And you can gauge yourself. So you can actually look down the list and go, oh, wow, I'm a blue belt at strength, but, oh, man, I'm a white belt at mobility. I need to put more time in on that. And then that's where you can really start to find a lot of gains in being able to self-identify where maybe you're not improving.
Absolutely.
Excited for that.
Yeah, me too, man. I think by the time people listen to this, the very first version will be out. Our members will be using it. It's a beta test, so we're receiving feedback, a lot of like updates and extra features to be added, but we didn't want to delay getting it out there because people have been like, where the fuck is this thing?
You talk about this for months, man.
So we're like, we'll give it to you guys. It is good enough to start with, and we will continue to improve over the coming months. If you want to get on that, get on our member site, bulletproof4bjj.com. You get a 7-day free trial. You can check it all out. If you don't like it, cancel. But you are going to love it, so you'll stick around and you'll become strong and mobile and be a supple savage on the mats.
That's what we need. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Thanks,
Cheers,
everybody.
bro. Peace, guys.